This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's community access radio station Plains FM 96.9 and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
It's time for Emergence News on Plains FM 96.9, citizen-made radio.
Hello and welcome to Emergence News here on Christchurch's Plains FM. Along with my colleagues John and Peter today, this program is dedicated to providing essentially a message of hope, a message from the Christ and the World Teacher Maitreya. His influence is guiding us out of the present rather chaotic conditions to a realisable harmony based on sharing and justice. This program aims to throw a new and revealing light on some of the greatest problems humanity now faces. Now, on recent programs, we've discussed some interesting subjects, including the 7 rays. Now, the rays are very important in recognising where and how you should serve.
Thanks, Nigel. And I've got some interesting observations from Mr. Benjamin Cream around that topic.
Around the topic of how to serve and what you should do if you're thinking about how to...
Yes.
What's service about?
Yes, and I'm going to touch on altruism as well. So that's an element of it.
And also later on, I'm going to be talking to Peter, who is going to cover... You're going to cover the 3 sciences of the future, Peter.
Yes, that's right, Nigel. We're going to... One of them, of course, is the Antakarana, which we started with last time. And also linked to that is meditation and the science of service.
So we're all in unity here, aren't we, really?
We're on the same page, John. It's looking good.
Is this one that we did before?
So, of course, as Peter just indicated, in the last program, we discussed the development of the Antakarana, the bridge of light that is built downwards by the soul as the individual begins to meditate. In his book, Maitreya's Mission, Volume 3, Benjamin Cream says, what we're talking about here is awareness, the gradual expansion of conscious awareness. Maitreya calls this process of self-realisation. He says he has come to teach us the art of self-realisation. He also says as a person begins to evolve through the building of the first stage of the Antakarana, the energies of the soul become increasingly available to him or her. Then the creative process begins. This stimulates the mind and the creative imagination, and then a life of creativity, of service ensues. Creativity and service are actually one and the same. Service is the life of the soul creatively expressed on the physical plane. So, as we've said, today we are going to talk about service. The masters, of course, they can serve because they know. Our service, you and I, our service is limited. Not only because of a lack of desire and energy, but because we do not know enough. We can serve in a rather limited way because our consciousness is limited. So the more conscious one is, the higher the level of consciousness, the greater the number of threads of consciousness extending outwards into the world. These are the Antakarana, which is not simply a column of light, but in fact threads of awareness spreading outwards from the individual into every sphere of the environment, of his or her environment. Service is the result of who you are, not necessarily what you are. So to serve correctly, you have to do it with awareness. Higher level of awareness equals a higher level of effective service. So what is service? I thought I'd finish with a little bit of advice from the author Benjamin Cream, and he says service is getting down to it. All sounds very practical, doesn't it, John?
He has an incredibly practical and sometimes blunt view of things there, Mr. Cream.
Yes, and he's got a charming sense of humour with it. He says, doing the everyday jobs in a rhythm that you can sustain, which will engage your energy, strength, and concentration. But this is the interesting bit, but not to the point of overtaxing it. That is finding the right rhythm, getting the maximum out of yourself with some degree of conservation of energy. He says nobody can do everything. So we're going to look at that specifically next with John as he looks at the subject of how to serve.
Thank you very much, Nigel, and good to see you again too, Peter. I have gone to the Share International website and looked at some of Benjamin Creme's ideas around service. So I'm going to kick off with that. And he was asked, why is service so important? And he kicks right into it. Service is the lever of the evolutionary path. Through service, we learn to identify with that which we serve. And so a shift occurs in our centre of focus. It shifts from the personal, the selfish, to the impersonal, the unselfish. And in doing that, we identify more and more with more and more. The way is through service. That is why it was instituted by the Christ in Palestine as a lever for the evolutionary process. Because as we begin to serve, we become more and more decentralized. We identify with more and more until we can identify with everything that is. And when we can identify with everything that is, we are everything that is. We are God. We release our divinity. Now, I just want to pick up on a little bit of an idea that floats around whenever you talk about service, and that is the term altruism or altruistic service. So I flicked over to Wikipedia and looked at some definitions. Really interesting what comes out. Wikipedia describes altruism or selflessness, and I never thought of altruism as selflessness. Goes on to say that's the principle or practice of the concern for the welfare of others. It is a traditional virtue in many cultures and a core aspect of various religious traditions and even secular worldviews, though the concept of others towards whom concern should be directed can vary among cultures and religions. It's quite interesting. Altruism or selflessness is the opposite of selfishness. Wikipedia also tells us the term altruism may also refer to an ethical doctrine that claims that individuals are morally obliged to benefit others. Used in this sense, it is usually contrasted with egoism, which claims individuals are morally obligated to serve themselves first.
Very tricky that though, isn't it? Because if you feel obligated, then it's not necessarily, the motivation isn't
Altruism.
Necessarily altruistic.
You're following doctrine or you're following belief. And Creme talks about the ability to see what needs to be done and just do it. And that's altruistic. He's been asked by a number of people how to be happy, because surely that's the goal of the spiritual life. How can we be happy? How can we keep happy? He's come back with the word serve. The happiest people I know, says Benjamin Creme, are the people involved in the reappearance work. That's us, guys. What makes them happy is the idea that Maitreya is in the world and that the ills of the world, the pain, the suffering, the lack of opportunity for millions of people will stop. I do not mean in a day or a week or even a year, but the process of transformation will take place. That makes them happy. That is what has kept them happy for years. So he's tying service to happiness, service to well-being. He's further asked, is there anything we can do as individuals to help us move through evolution faster? And he comes back with, evolution is speeded up through meditation and service. And there is that great Benjamin Creme quote, the right royal road to enlightenment is meditation and service. He goes on to tell us these are the two levers of the evolutionary process. Nothing moves you forward faster than correct scientific meditation and powerful altruistic service to the world. The soul comes into incarnation in the first place to serve the plan of evolution. It is aware of the plan of the logos of the planet, and it seeks in every way to carry out that plan. The major aspect of the plan is the spiritualization of matter, which the soul does by entering into incarnation. On its own plane, the soul is perfect, But in incarnation, it has to go through all the limitations of our miserable lives. Benjamin Creme, our miserable lives. The man is so right. He talks about the selfishness and greed, the misshapen thoughts that we project around us that create all sorts of problems in the world today. He's also asked, and this is a question that happens a lot, how do I know which is my way? Where's my path? How can I find my way to serve?
Yeah, some of the letters that people are particularly asking, what can I do? What can I do? They want a big job, though.
Yes.
They want the managing director's job.
It's got to be important.
It's got to be an important one.
Yeah.
He comes back with, people imagine that they have their own very special, distinguishable way of serving. That is why they've not found it yet. They are still looking for that which does not exist. There is seldom one way of service for an individual. There is a world in travail needing to be served. There are different approaches and different departments in life, and you can serve in any of them. It would have been a waste of Winston Churchill's talents, Benjamin Creme tells us, to work in the Theosophical Society. But on the other hand, H.P. Blavatsky was perfect for that role, and not as the head of government. So although they were both enlightened people, they had very specific talents and worked along that path. And that's what Creme is saying. Find your talent, find your path. You will have one.
And opportunities will present themselves.
Yes. He talks about your personality structure. So we've talked about the rays, we've talked about personality structure. That's part of finding out why you're here. He goes on to say, find what attracts you in terms of a direction or department. Most people are not stupid. Normally they do not do things which are totally alien to them. Well, he goes on to say they may do, but usually not for long. What attracts you and holds your attention, work to which you give time and energy for a long period, will probably be along your own natural line. So what he's saying is what you feel attracted to, pursue it. See where it takes you. If it doesn't take you very far, it doesn't hold you, then drop it. But it is your process. He also finishes off with, and I love this concept, he says, how do relationship to one's spouse and children relate to service? How do we work those two together?
Yes, because sometimes it can be quite challenging.
Yes, living the life of a disciple, but also living in the world. Creme finishes with, a disciple has to satisfy the needs of life, to earn a living, to pay correct due to family duties, and also to serve as a disciple. That is the problem for the disciple. To be in the world totally, relating to accepting the world, accepting one's responsibility as a human being, but also accepting that there are things that need to be doing. You have to live a life day to day, not letting things getting you down, taking nothing too high, but a steady, even response to life, which is what you talked about earlier, maintaining that sustainability. He tells us it's very much along those lines of the householder yogi. You know, where you've got one foot in the human world and one foot in the spiritual world, and you've got to try and balance that. And he talks about the disciple has to live both of those pathways, work in the world, but not be of the world.
Yes, you've got your family responsibilities, you've got your professional responsibilities, but you've got to find time.
And then you have the life of service. So somewhere you've got to put meditation service into
The
that
mix.
life.
Thank you, John. And now, Peter, you're going to look at the 3 sciences of the future.
Exactly, Nigel. And this again is from Benjamin Creme's book, Maitreya's Mission, Volume 3. It's a great volume. It's got so much in it. It's got all the initiation points of the various names of history.
That's a
which I
really
find
interesting part of
fascinating.
that book.
Yeah.
Yeah, the initiates, yeah.
And anyway, the 3 major sciences that will dominate in the new age, the science of the Antakarana, which we've sort of covered last week, the science of meditation, and the science of service. The science of service utilises the creativity which is achieved through the building of the Antakarana. And the science of meditation, of course, is the preliminary process leading to and essential to the creation of the Antakarana through its science. So the science of the Antakarana is very broad indeed, including that of meditation and of service. The vitalizing agency is, first of all, the soul. The soul opens up the personality level, the knowledge petals in the crown chakra, and vitalizes them. This stimulates the thought process and galvanizes the man or woman to further creation of the bridge, the Antakarana, between itself and the soul. Soul at one-ment gradually takes place, and when this has gone a certain distance, initiation leads to the opening of the love petals. And eventually, as a man or woman approaches the third initiation, and that is taken, the opening up of the inner three petals, which enclose the jewel in the heart of the lotus, which is the will aspect. The monad reflects more and more in the man or woman on the physical plane, dominating, therefore, the life of that individual. In this process, what was simply emotional aspiration gradually transforms itself into the monadic will. The purpose of life is known. This leads to lives of true value on the physical plane. No time is wasted. The individual knows his or her purpose in life and gets on with it, without the wastage of time and wrong thought, wrong action, and delays which occur lower down the line. He discovers the value, uses, and purpose of the creative imagination. This is all that remains to him eventually of the intensely active astral life lived for so many lives. The astral body becomes a mechanism of transformation. Desire transformed into aspiration. Aspiration into a growing and expressive intuitive faculty. And intuition is actually what the Antakarana is. Intuition is group awareness. And that is what group Antakarana is.
Yeah, and that's what Krem was referring to earlier. It's all about awareness, isn't it?
It is, yes. The intuitive faculty emerges when true soul contact is achieved, when the bridge between the personality and the soul is of such constancy and intensity that what was simply emotional aspiration is transformed into a direct linking with a higher aspect of which it is a reflection. The Buddhic aspect of the spiritual triad, our astral emotional body in terms of an evolutionary purpose, is meant to be and eventually becomes simply a still reflecting vehicle for Buddhi. Buddhi is true intuition. It is essentially group consciousness. Intuition is another name for group consciousness. It is the Buddhic, the love-wisdom aspect of the spiritual triad. I think we've talked about the spiritual triad before, haven't we? Mm-hmm. And it's actually part of the soul aspect. Buddhi eventually reflects itself directly through the astral mechanism as intuition. We know because we know because we know. It takes a wee bit of, that's one of his favourite phrases actually. But, we know because we know because we know. Mm-hmm. There is no thinking about it. It is a direct, spontaneous response to Buddhi, using the purified astral nature as the medium for that intuitive response. The Antakarana produces this inevitably. There is a relationship between the science of the Antakarana and the transmission meditation. Transmission meditation is a fusion of two yogas, Karma Yoga, the yoga of service, and Laya Yoga, the yoga of the chakras, the energies. Essentially, the Antakarana is concerned with the force centers, the chakras, because it is through the scientific manipulation of the energies in the chakras, the correct stimulation of these chakras, that the Antakarana is built. One can say that the science of the Antakarana is the science of the chakras, the science of the future, of the Antakarana, of meditation and of service, are linked. One leads to the other. Correct meditation leads to the building of the Antakarana. Correct building of the Antakarana leads to the life of service, correct service, directed by sole purpose. The knowledge and creativity of the soul is consciously put at the disposal of the individual who scientifically builds the Antakarana. Since transmission meditation is a fusion of karma yoga and laya yoga, what the masters are actually doing in the transmission groups around the world is creating a group Antakarana. It is being done for us. The average time of real alignment, and therefore of correct transmitting, in 1 hour is about 3.5 or 4 minutes. It's not long, is it? It's pretty pathetic. It is only because transmission meditation is so potent, so scientific, that it is valuable to do even these 3.5 minutes. Because of its extraordinary potency, because of the pure scientific nature of the transmission meditation, these 3.5 to 4 minutes have an extraordinary value for the world and an extraordinary value for the people doing it. We are gradually having the Antakarana built for us. It is a gift. The masters are serving us, spoon-feeding us. The Antakarana is being created at an extraordinary rate, so much so that if people around the 1.5 mark between the first and second initiation, and in reasonable health and youth, it is perfectly possible to take the second initiation in this life, not because of any particular effort being made, either in building the Antakarana or in the service to the world, but simply through sitting enough times in transmission meditation, keeping the attention on the ajna center for the masters to help create this channel of light between the different aspects of our being. This is an extraordinary thing that is happening in the transmission groups. It is one of the major reasons why people in these groups make such extraordinary advancement. Those who have been transmitting for 10 years say are far more advanced than they could possibly have been otherwise. They may not realize it, but the masters do. They measure and register it. They know who they are that are ready in this incarnation to take the second initiation. Most people doing transmission meditation have taken the first. This is only possible because of the exigencies of the time, which at the same time presents to the aspirant and the disciple an opportunity for service through transmission meditation. It cannot be overemphasized how valuable this proving. What is being built in the connecting thread, the channel between the different aspects of oneself, is a path of return to the source, the monad. We are the monad, which reflects through the soul as the physical plane personality. This is something, of course, that we say we are the soul, but above and beyond that is the monad, which, as Benjamin said, we are actually the monad, which is a spark of God. We are part of God.
Individualized spark of God.
Exactly. And we work through a soul because it's a stepping down process, as everything is that we do. So,
and that's that little secret, that little rumour that I like, and that is that your soul is actually a solar angel.
Yeah.
Oh, let's leave people with that, shall we?
Thank you.
All this information can be found on the Share International website, www.share-international.org. Scorpio Books in Christchurch carries the magazine and some books. And also don't forget the podcasts, which are available on the Plains FM website.
We welcome your comments, questions and feedback. Please contact us at emergencenews@gmail.com.
The opportunity to join our transmission is available Monday and Wednesday evenings and Thursday mornings, which gives us the possibility to do a service meditation in conjunction with masters.